My next patron question is from Sonia, who wanted to know about a recent decision regarding a classic cartoon character. In March of 2021, the Looney Tunes character Pepe Le Pew was retired. Many people, myself included, feel that this move was a bit excessive. Now, there's no denying his antics are questionable, but what the higher-ups at WB should have done was revamp the character to fit current cultural standards. Why did they take such drastic measures? Pepe Le Pew is a character that has faced his share of controversies over his actions in classic cartoons, and this is not even a recent occurrence. People have been disturbed by him constantly trying to tame Penelope the cat's unwanted advances for years. Apparently, these have piled up enough for Warner Brothers to supposedly retire the character, including cutting a scene he originally had in Space Jam: A New Legacy. Being a character introduced in the 40s, there are obviously aspects that likely would not age well. The Looney Tunes were not intended as squeaky clean characters after all, and Pepe literally is not squeaky clean, as one of the main jokes was everyone being repulsed by his smell. The other joke is that he is incredibly French, with a voice that sounds like Maurice Chevalier. And then there was the main premise of a number of cartoons, where Pepe falls in love with Penelope, usually because some white paint on her back makes him think she's a skunk. He constantly attempts to pursue her, even for showing him she is clearly not interested. A generous reading could be that his creators, Chuck Jones and Michael Maltese, wanted Pepe to look like a pathetic figure who cannot take a hint, and that our sympathies are intended to be entirely on Penelope. Jones even said he partly based the character on a Warner Brothers animation colleague who boasted that he was a ladies' man. Even if all this was the case, it is difficult to find much humor in Pepe constantly smooshing Penelope in his arms while she's trying desperately to wrestle out of his grasp. Since the classic days of Looney Tunes, there have been ways other writers have sought to depict the character. There's a part in the 1995 cartoon Carrot Blanca, where Pepe plays Claude Rains' role from Casablanca, and we see him do his usual shtick on Penelope. We do see Sylvester get angry at Pepe, telling him to get his hands off her, and Penelope take her claws out. That does not entirely remove his much criticized personality, but it is refreshing to see other characters stick up for Penelope and also have her fight back. Meanwhile, others have found alternate uses for him. He has an extremely brief cameo as a policeman in Looney Tunes Back in Action, during the big action sequence set in Paris. That was quite clever, although he apparently had more scenes that were cut from the movie. I thought the Looney Tunes show from the early 2010s found okay use for him. They kept him as a womanizer but toned him down. Some of his romances are consensual, others are not, with the main joke usually coming from how terribly he smells. I think the best route to take will be to turn Pepe Le Pew into a Johnny Bravo type, where he constantly gets punched out by women he attempts to court. That's still very much in keeping with the classic Looney Tunes humor, and that was even what his original scene from Space Jam 2 was going to be like. You could even write Pepe Le Pew cartoons that don't involve him trying to get romantically involved with someone. There's so many potential jokes surrounding how poorly he smells and him not being aware. You could do a cartoon similar to that Seinfeld episode where Valet leaves a terrible smell in Jerry's car and we see the comical reactions to this. You could do a cartoon that's really an anti-smoking PSA, with Pepe at the center, although I doubt Warner Brothers would allow one of the Looney Tunes to smoke these days. Another idea is a cartoon about Pepe giving viewers a tour of Paris and the various sights, sounds, and especially smells they could encounter, all while comedic situations are happening around him. Will we never see Pepe Le Pew again? Well, he did show up in an episode of the Animaniacs revival, and they even made a joke of him not wanting to be erased. So it's absolutely possible for him to appear in something again in the future. Eric Bauza even serves as current voice actor, and I'm sure he would love to continue to play a less forceful version of the character. It's also worth remembering this is not even the first time Warner Brothers has declared they would no longer use a Looney Tunes character due to their perception of public reaction. They once announced that Cartoon Network would no longer air Speedy Gonzales shorts for fear of offending Latin American viewers, only for them to receive several letters from Latin American Speedy fans telling them to put the cartoons back on. He even appeared in a few Volkswagen commercials not long afterwards, and Warner Brothers has tried to get a movie starring that Mexican mouse off the ground for a while now. I can see a talented writer and artist coming forward with a pitch on how to handle Pepe for modern sensibilities. Not Max Landis, though. For those unaware, Landis once wrote a Pepe Le Pew movie for Warner Brothers, and considering the stories that have since come out about him, I think the studio dodged a bullet when they decided not to produce it. I understand WB's concerns, but I feel like Pepe is a character that's easy to rewrite and make funny again. I mean, he's a skunk who bounces around Paris, speaks with an exaggerated French accent, and causes people to run away from his stench. You can do something funny with that. Thank you for your question, Sonia.